50 years ago, NBC aired another episode of the classic Star Trek series called The City on the Edge of Forever. These are my honest opinions on it. First of all, I want to apologize for the late upload. The reason is very simple. I'm a bit ill, and during the last 2 days, I simply wasn't able to talk for more than a couple of seconds. I still have a crappy voice, but I'm able to speak, so let's start. The episode starts on the bridge with our heroes examining strange time distortions surrounding the planet. The control circuits overload, the helm console explodes, and Lieutenant Sulu is injured. Dr. McCoy quickly comes to the bridge and revives Sulu with a couple of drops of cordrazine. Sulu wakes up and smiles. I never noticed that George Takei has a pretty creepy smile. But during the next distortion, the ship shakes and McCoy accidentally injects himself with the rest of the cordrazine, practically overdosing. He becomes violent and paranoid and beams down to the planet thinking that the Enterprise crew wants to kill him. Kirk and company beam down to the planet where they find a strange donut-shaped object. This is the Guardian of Forever, a part machine, part creature which, to say it as simply as possible, works as a time portal. We get a look at the past of Earth using very cleverly used footage from old black and white Paramount movies, when suddenly McCoy appears, attacks them, and jumps through the portal. The landing party suddenly loses contact with the Enterprise, and they realize they have a huge problem. The Enterprise, just like the Federation, don't exist anymore. McCoy somehow changed the past, and the timeline from which they came never happened. Of course, our heroes must now find where did he go, what has he done, and fix it, which according to the Guardian would restore the original timeline. Thanks to Spock's tricorder recordings, they know they should jump to the 1930s and end up in New York City. The funny thing is that the 1930s New York looks just like the planet where the Archons crash landed, or the planet where they found Miri. So what is the first thing our heroes do when they arrive? They steal stuff. Well, they did have a good reason for it. They needed to somehow look less suspicious. Unfortunately, they get caught by a policeman. They try to trick him with a story that Spock is a Chinese immigrant who, as a kid, got his head trapped inside a mechanical rice picker. But thankfully, he was saved by an American missionary who was before that a plastic surgeon. But unfortunately, the policeman is not stupid, so Spock has to use the FSNP, the famous Spock nerve pinch. So great, they are in the 20th century for just a couple of minutes now, and they managed to almost get ran over by a car. They stole some clothes and assaulted a police officer. Great saviors of the future. They then break into the first building they find, where they meet Edith Keeler, the main guest star of this episode. She leads the 21st Street mission and gives them some work, food and a place to live for the next days. Spock immediately tries to create something like a computer so that he can read the data from the tricorder and find out where could McCoy end up and when. Meanwhile, Kirk gets closer to Edith, probably too close. Spock succeeds and realizes that Edith Keeler has two possible destinies. She will either tragically die later that year or live a long life as a peace activist, and thanks to her, the USA will never join World War II and the Nazis will win. So we have a small problem. Kirk fell in love with Edith Keeler, but Edith Keeler has to die. Meanwhile, McCoy arrives to the same part of the same town to the same year, and ends up in the same mission where Edith takes care of him, unbeknownst to Kirk or McCoy. However, when a few days later Edith mentions McCoy's name when she and Kirk go to see a new Clark Gable movie, things start to go downhill really fast. McCoy appears in the door, Kirk runs to him. Edith walks to them, but a car is approaching. When Kirk and McCoy see it, McCoy wants to save her, but Kirk stops him and Edith dies. This episode doesn't end with a typical 60s upbeat and positive scene, but with Kirk's "let's get the hell out of here." This episode might not only be one of the best episodes of Star Trek, but also one of the best episodes of a TV show ever. It simply works. It works as a sci-fi story. It works as a time travel story. It works as a drama. It also works as a comedy. It works as a love story. It works as a tragedy. It simply works, and that is pretty rare. However, there are still some things I will point out. For example, the reused street set starts to get really old, especially if you have seen all the previous episodes more than once. It's a little overused, just like Vasquez Rocks. I do like how they treat the time travel aspect. Most stories would try to explain how they got to the past using science, whether it would be real science or just technobabble, and almost every single time they would get it wrong. However, this episode simply gives us something like a living machine, and we're too stupid to understand how exactly it works, so simply shut up and enjoy the ride. What I don't like about the time travel part of the story is the fact that McCoy simply got to the same place and time without any proper explanation. That seems to be a bit cheap, and I love the fact that they had the balls to do the ending. Most of the time they would find a way how Edith and Kirk could end up together without her losing her life. But here Kirk has found the courage to do what is right for the world. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or one. They did a similar thing later on Star Trek The Next Generation, where a Romulan is lying on his deathbed, and the only thing that can save him is a transfusion from Worf. Through the whole time you expect that somehow they will force Worf to give him his blood, but no, they let him die. Respect to the writers. But overall, City on the Edge of Forever is one of the must-see episodes. It's sad that Harlan Ellison publicly bashes the final version whenever he can. I think it's beautiful. I will one day get to read the original version. It was released as a comic book adaptation. Who knows, maybe I will love it and change my opinion about the episode. But right now I would give this episode 10 out of 10. But again, these are just my opinions. I would really like to know yours. Do you like it or hate it, or do you think it's just average? Leave your opinion down in the comment section. Feel free to watch any of my previous videos. I do various stuff. And if you like this type of videos, hit the like button, and see you next week when I'll do my quick thoughts on Operation Annihilate. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time, and hopefully I will be soon able to talk. Bye.